Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 180, despite the icon saying 179, because like a jackass, I forgot to update the top panel up there.
Nailed it.
Yeah, something always goes wrong, right? This, of course, is your weekly little get-together. We talk about recent gaming news and watch me fail almost weekly, it seems.
Yep, he's
I
doing
am
good.
your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Tonight, David, we get word about some layoffs happening over at Microsoft. We talk about Alpha Protocol getting yanked from digital stores, and I don't get nearly as mad as you might think I would at Bernie Sanders. Weird.
I'm surprised at you. But that's just because you're a dick.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Twitter handle down there. You can probably tell what side of the political I fall on. David?
Anyway.
Before we get into that, one, I want to welcome everyone showing up. This is an audience interactive podcast, so if you're watching us here live at Twitch TV or later on at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, please feel free to join in the conversation. Obviously, if you're here live, you can get to it much sooner than otherwise. With comments, questions, concerns, topics you want to talk about, comments you might have on whatever stories we're talking about, I want this to be as much of your show as it is ours.
Ideally, make it more your show than ours because we are lazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be terrific.
If I could find a way to get all of you to crowdsource to work for me, that would be
amazing. We would be the first crowdsourced game-related podcast.
100% crowdsourced research.
What are you talking about, dude? It's for the players, by the players.
I'm sure that slogan is copyrighted somewhere. I'm almost positive.
Nah, it'll be fine. Who's gonna catch us?
No one. Anyways, before we get into all that fun stuff, though, I want to talk about one thing specifically, and that is this fucking EA surprise mechanic nonsense going around. Now, have you seen this goddamn thing?
Is so funny and so fucking ridiculous, and just oh god, you can start talking.
Okay, so last week, in case you missed it, and we're not going to get too deep into it because this thing has been just, it became a meme overnight. Last week, Kerry Hopkins, that's EA's Vice President of Legal and Governmental Affairs, insisted before the UK Parliament's Digital Culture and Media Support Committee that the company's randomized purchases aren't loot boxes. So essentially what they're saying, that she said, no, all those like weird boxes you get that have randomized loot in there, those are not loot boxes, despite being loot boxes. She instead called them surprise mechanics. And that the idea has been around for years, whether it be Kinder Eggs, Hatchimals, or Lol Surprise. Now, I don't know what Lol Surprise is, but I know what the other two are. Hopkins then went on to say that we do think that we have implemented these kinds of mechanics is actually quite ethical and quite fun, quite enjoyable to the people. There will be a link provided to this conversation down below in chat. What do you think about this?
This is the most ridiculous fucking spin, dumbass bullshit I've ever heard a company say out loud to the press.
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying...
What the fuck are you doing?
It's like going around saying that piracy isn't piracy, it's a surprise discount.
You could have done this like 2 years ago when everyone was starting to get mad at loot boxes. But at this point, you've had to go back and retroactively remove loot boxes and microtransaction mechanics from your fucking video games because you're getting threatened by legal action by various government entities. And the fact that, hey, guess what? Your stocks are down because fans are sick of your bullshit. And we can see through all of your just, God damn, it's so stupid. Oh, my God.
So here's my question. If loot boxes are 100% completely ethical, then why do you feel like you have to change the name from loot box to surprise mechanic?
Hey.
It is truly a remarkable piece. Like, I mean, props to Kerry Hopkins. I love a good spin when I see it. I mean, I that's one thing. I worked in retail sales for the longest time. My entire job was spinning bad things into good things to get people to buy shit. So I could see talent and recognize it when I notice it. And that is an amazing bullshit spin right there.
That is some good quality bullshit.
But yeah, so that is something that definitely came up. And this was immediately made into a meme across the internet. This just, God damn, it's so, there are some things that you just hear, you just kind of have to go, all right, I guess that's what we're calling it now.
Sounds good. Nailed it.
Sure. This show has many axioms. Things like don't pre-order.
Yeah.
Things like if a company is doing bad, they'll hide their numbers. If they're doing good, they won't shut up about them.
And fuck microtransactions.
And fuck microtransactions. He is a horrible person.
That fucking bastard.
I want to add another one of these axioms to the show here today. If you have to change the name of something, you're losing the argument. If suddenly it's not microtransactions, it's reoccurrent spending, you're losing the argument.
Rebranding is very rarely done when you're ahead.
Exactly. You don't suddenly
Rebranding is to try and get rid of some tarnish on your reputation. That's why that shit happens.
We're
not this thing anymore, we're this other thing because you haven't heard of this other thing.
The only case I can think of where rebranding worked in the other direction, where a company once had a name that was fine, and then they took on the more ominous overtone by rebranding, was when Nordic Games became THQ Nordic.
I was going to say the only other time I could think of is when a small burger chain that was known as Murder Burger for years and years and years got too many people mad at it, so they rebranded as Red Rum. So that was pretty good.
So are we good with that new axiom? If you have to rebrand, you're losing the argument.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm with that. Hey, here you go.
Dr. Hugo, man, thank you. Welcome to the chat. I appreciate you being here. As to all the other lurkers in chat as well, feel free to drop in into any topic. Just be cool about it.
Don't be dicks on the internet. That's one of our other things. I keep forgetting to write it down.
Yeah, that is one of them.
Be excellent to each other.
I preferred that as opposed to don't be dicks on the internet, because Will Wheaton kind of coined that one in. Well, Will Wheaton is a giant dick, so I just feel like a hypocrite when I say that specifically.
I can say whatever I want. As far as I know, no one else has ever said it before.
All right, so that is something that I wanted to mention. Yes, we are aware of this fucking bullshit EA executive statement on what's going on. There's really not too much to get into it because, honestly, it just speaks for itself. There's surprise mechanics now. All right, moving on. I don't know how Soulja's doing there, Dr. Hugo. However, while on the topic of Soulja Boy and his Soulja Boy console...
His kidnapping case was kicked out due to lack of evidence.
Wait, what?
Don't worry about it. We're not here to talk about that.
No, I'm here to talk about, because you mentioned Soulja Boy in chat, and I think the Soulja console, which makes me think of another console whose life was brutally cut short. I believe that this is officially the last week of the Ouya.
Oh, yeah, that
their
happened.
Store closes this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so rip Ouya. Now.
Also the Razer whatever the fuck store. Because they bought Ouya
the Razer Ouya Anywhere or some shit like that, or the Razer Plus or something, whatever. So, now moving on to real stories of the week. And as jocular and jovial as that was, this one's actually a little bit of a downer, because it seems to be every fucking 3 weeks we gotta talk about another case of this happening. There have been some more layoffs in the gaming industry, and this is going to be via Twin Galaxies. According to some, layoffs happened at the Inside Xbox team and as well as Mixer, as an aside, and they seem to have taken place prior to E3 2019. And it was just very hush-hush. No one really knew it was happening because E3 kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the room. But it looks like the content creation teams at Inside Xbox and Mixer have been heavily decimated by layoffs.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And it happened before E3, but we've learned about it now. That's like, it kind of sucks more to me. I get them not wanting to announce it before E3 for I don't know. They're trying to build the brand usually. What E3's for is to sell things. And specifically
Microsoft, because Microsoft has so many eyes on it with the Project Scarlet. Because remember, back then we all thought they were actually going to give some specs about the console instead of just the, yes, it exists.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mixer and Inside Xbox teams had a whole bunch of layoffs. They were using the hashtag #FunEmployment. Yay. Multiple members of their internal team shared their love for the former team in the first public announcement that any layoffs have even happened. So that's something else that's interesting too. A lot of people were let go, but no one was really talking about it until just recently. Last week. Friday, in fact.
It's crazy.
And like I was saying, the layoffs seem to be focused specifically on content creation for Mixer and Inside Xbox. These are the guys who are making things like original videos or blog posts, social media, stuff like that.
Well, and I've heard that Mixer is actually a really cool place to work, and that the teams that are behind that tech are doing really well and actually have good cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
So that sucks anytime there's a team that's working well, because working somewhere and liking all of your coworkers and getting along and putting shit that's just working is so rare. I feel like
Now,
who hasn't had coworkers that they just can't stand, or they don't work well with, or they bounce off of, or something like that. So it sucks when you hear things like this.
Right. Now, have you or anyone happens to be watching at Twitch or YouTube ever use Mixer? We broadcast on Twitch. I've never even once looked at Mixer.
Yeah, I use Mixer to stream Forza.
Okay, how is it?
It's fucking amazing. I do no work. I literally open the the Xbox game bar or whatever on my computer while I'm playing Forza, and then I click on the Mixer button, and then I send people the link to my Mixer stream, which is live and has almost no delay.
Huh. See, the no delay thing's something I did hear about a lot, and that right there is somewhat impressive.
The delay is outrageously low.
Because Twitch, for example, right now, it's about 20 seconds. So if I say something, you guys are going to hear it 20 seconds from now, and your going response is going to be another 10 seconds. So it's like 20 to 30 seconds at times before I can respond to chat, which is what makes... Sometimes, if you're noticing, I'm ignoring you guys in chat because you might bring up something relative to the previous story. It's because we've already moved on. So it's not personal. But there is a pretty big
Or we're waiting for the proper comedic timing to bring it back around.
Yes, exactly.
Very important.
Yes, because we are all about timing.
Yes. Want to talk about Eurogamer?
Not yet. Not yet.
Just checking.
So, yeah, Mixer apparently is something that's good, and they've been hit really hard. Now, I don't think that this is going to be the end of Mixer, by the way. I think that they're just shifting away from content creation.
Yeah, they've talked about the fact that Mixer isn't going anywhere. This is just a change in focus. Because the actual program itself, the tech, is doing really well. They're just not going to make more original stuff for it.
Correct. And I would bet dollars to donuts that the Project Scarlet, whatever it's going to be, is going to have heavy, heavy, heavy Mixer integration.
Hell yeah. There's going to be a button on the controller for it.
Well, PlayStation 4 had that, and I think Xbox 3 One has it as well. So the share button's already kind of there, but I think it's going... But it always felt like an afterthought. I think this is going to be built with like some streaming shit in mind. Because Microsoft wants Mixer to be a competitor to Twitch. It's just not there anywhere near it yet. Anyways, let us... If any of you at home have used Mixer... Apparently, it's more popular than the Zune was, so it does have a life after this.
Damn, bringing up the Zune. That's harsh, man. The Zunes were dope.
No, they weren't.
And they were great.
No. Did you have a Zune?
No.
Yeah, that's what, exactly. No one had a Zune. Mixer is better than Cube TV. I don't even know what Cube TV is.
That's the really old school TVs that were a cube.
I really despise you sometimes.
I'll be here all night.
David, now it's time for you to talk about the Eurogamer article. And it's actually not about Eurogamer. Let's be clear.
It's actually not. This is just from Eurogamer. I just don't know how to segue. So, this actually kind of sucks, but Alpha Protocol, which is a game that was released by Sega, was pulled from Steam. And the notice on the Steam page says that the request of the publisher, Alpha Protocol, is no longer available for sale. Anyone who bought and downloaded Alpha Protocol will still be able to play the game, and anyone who's bought it but not downloaded it or since deleted it will still be able to download it at any time. You do still own your game. It didn't get the PT effect.
So, before we read the rest of this, what is your initial thoughts on this?
Shit, that sucks. We really need to work on preserving video games in the way they were released, because video game preservation is a serious issue because people aren't saving enough masters.
Yes, I absolutely 100% agree on that. As far as Alpha Protocol, have you played it?
Nope.
Okay, it is Obsidian made it.
I've heard it's great.
So think Knights of the Old Republic, but instead of Star Wars, it's a spy thriller.
That's cool.
A really wacky spy thriller at that. There's a lot of weird shit in there.
I like weird shit, specifically.
It's like a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. Any conspiracy theory you could think of, I think was real. It's been a long time since I played Alpha Protocol, but
I don't go to that side of YouTube.
But essentially, it got you say PT. I don't want to quite call it PT because PT you just can't even re-download again. It got Alan Wake.
No, that's why I said it didn't get PT'd.
Oh, okay. I misheard. It got more like Alan Wake, and for the exact same reasons. Because Sega went on to clarify, Sega still has the Alpha Protocol IP, but they had to pull it because of the expiration of music rights, which is why Alan Wake got yanked. They had to yank it, take out the licensed music. For example, Alan Wake had some Roy Orbison, Poe, a couple other people in there whose names I forget. This is why GTA had those patches put in to get rid of all the old music. I think Michael Jackson was the couch who did that, for example. Now, back to the game preservation talk. This is absolutely why we need the ESA, who is the lobbying arm of the video game industry. These are the guys that run E3. These are the guys who go to Washington to tell senators why loot boxes are protected American right for some shit. They need to be in charge of creating some kind of physical repository, like a library of some sorts, for video games. Because I've gone
Library
on this...
games.
Yeah. A seed bank, a seed vault, as it were, of games, because we lose shit all the time.
Yep.
Back on my stint on Kind of Funny Games Daily, I was talking about how the source code to Homeworld Cataclysm was just lost. We don't know where it's at.
Dude, for the longest time, I thought Final Fantasy VIII was lost. And
Square
as far as
said
I know, it could still be that way, and they're just rebuilding that shit from scratch. And that's
don't quote me on this, but I swear recently Square said, we're embarrassed to admit this, but the reason why we did nothing with Final Fantasy VIII is because we lost where the source code was.
I thought that we had talked about that as well, but I wasn't 100%, so I didn't want to put it in stone. We think that's the case, but hey, it's getting remastered, so let's not give a shit about it.
There is all kinds of shit where things are just lost, and that's a shame. Did you know that, David, 90% of all silent movies are gone? They're just gone.
Damn.
90%.
That's okay. Let's talk about the original seasons of Doctor Who. All the black and white ones.
I don't know this one.
Yeah, Doctor Who, like, BBC lost that shit. If you watch the old Doctor Who on Netflix, you watch, like, the 3rd episode of the 1st season, the 4th episode of the 2nd season, the 3rd and 4th episodes of the 3rd season. Like, this is you watching it in order on Netflix, the way it's presented.
Holy shit, really?
You are just jumping season to season, so the Doctor changes, like, almost fucking per episode.
And it's because they've just lost that film.
Straight up lost it. It's gone.
Wow. I didn't know that one. That's actually fucking tragic, too.
Yep. Because what's funny is I like old TV like that. And so at some point I was like, I'm going to watch old Doctor Who. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is great. And then the next episode, I'm like, who the fuck's that guy?
Why the fuck is Tom Baker here already?
So weird.
So I get when games first started. Because a lot, like, I mean, who fucking expected when they were making Adventure back in, like, 1984 that video games would be the cultural zeitgeist where they are now? Like, we're talking about preserving things. I get that a lot of that early shit had no oversight. And it's one of the reasons why we had all the problems of Star Control, for example.
Yep.
It was just like, yeah, sure, here's a napkin that says you own this.
Yeah, basically.
Because, fuck it, it's a video game. Who cared, right? But now we've hit the point where there's like legitimate cultural relevancy here. Like, how influential...
Also billions of dollars at stake.
Yes, that's part of it. But let's think, rather than the economical side, let's think of the cultural side. How has Mario shaped things? How's Pac-Man shaped things? How's fucking Pokemon? The biggest franchise ever to exist, and I believe that's true. I believe Pokemon is the biggest franchise to ever exist, period.
It's hard to argue with that.
How has that actually shaped culture as a whole? It's significantly done it. And we have nothing in place to preserve any of this shit at all.
It's true. If they lost the source to Red and Blue, that shit would just be gone.
Yeah, just nothing. There is no archive. There's nothing. And that's why when I see shit like this Alpha Protocol story about how it got pulled because of fucking music rights.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The reason this game got pulled isn't because they lost the IP or anything. It's literally their rights to some of the music in the game expired.
Yeah. What if Sega goes...
Which is ridiculous.
Coco for Tacos, chat, he has confirmed that Pokemon is #1 as far as IPs go. What if Sega decides not to put that game back out? Like, it's not worth it. We were selling 2 copies of it a year. Fuck it, it's not worth it. And then it just gets shelved, and eventually someone loses it. Alpha Protocol's now gone. Unless someone can find an old physical copy of it somewhere.
That's crazy.
That is why video game preservation is so important. Because it makes it sound comedic to say this shit's like video games are important historically. But
now here's the fucky part, right?
Okay.
Now the only way for you to keep or get Alpha Protocol is to pirate it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Which I guarantee I can. If I start working for it, I could track down a copy of Alpha Protocol.
Here's the thing about piracy.
Really wanted it.
Here's the thing about piracy. It's not the original. It's like the equivalent of oral historic storytelling, where
true.
I get it. Who knows what I might change to it before I hand it off to someone else? Because you can fuck with that shit. You can mod it. You can change words of dialogue around.
That's definitely fair, but it's more of it than you could get from Sega right now.
Right. Now, Captain Ice Cold in chat, first of all, thank you for showing up, says, there are many fan-made archival projects, and I think the issue is there isn't many large-scale public projects to preserve it. Correct. There's one in Oakland, whose name I forget, but there is someone that's trying to do that. And as far as fan-made archival stuff goes, that's cool and all, and I'm glad that there's someone's like trying to preserve like in collections and stuff like that. But that does not preserve source code.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the
like a copy of the game.
Yes, and that's cool. I want a copy of the game, but you run into the Homeworld Cataclysm thing. That's always my go-to thing, Homeworld Cataclysm, because I'm such a Homeworld fan.
Yeah,
that source code's gone,
and it's just completely gone. Yeah,
yeah. You might have the game itself, but you can't rip the source code from that. If it was a digital-only game, as we are moving closer and closer to, not only just digital-only games, but think of things like Stadia. What if that takes off? Then you don't even have a physical copy of it anymore. Right?
Yep.
So that just, yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking to chat.
Fair enough. So.
And I was trying to track down the name of that. Is it the Video Game History Foundation? Is that the one in Oakland?
Hey, there's one in Oakland. I can't remember what it's called. If you can find its name, or if someone in chat could please let us know. Once we go to that all-digital feature, which is coming, we're fucked. Like, yep. I keep talking about Steam. No one ever expects Valve to go under and Steam to go away. But what if one day they Gabe Newell's, like, arrested for something horrible, and the government just shuts Steam down?
They just shut the whole thing down, turn off all the servers, and all of a sudden people are just out of all of their games besides the ones that maybe they have downloaded, but who knows how long before Steam has to check in to verify your games are actually owned by you.
Yeah. Beyond that, though, how many games are just Steam exclusive?
It's true. And they're just gone.
Just go, poof. Gone out to the wild. So that is why this shit is important. And once again, I know it's funny to say video games are important compared to history. Okay, it's a small thing, but this shit's culturally relevant. Mario, Pokemon, Sonic, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Final Fantasy, fucking Dragon Quest. Go to Japan. You know what one of the most recognizable things ever is? That goddamn Dragon Quest slime. So you can't tell me this shit isn't culturally relevant.
Yeah.
And we need something in place to preserve this stuff in its original form. And to tie it back to the conversation with you, Captain Ice Cold, about fan archives, a fan archive is going to cut it. Because we need some kind of verification system set up, some kind of something in place to guarantee that, yes, this is the original source code as intended. Because otherwise it goes back to the oral tradition thing where it's like, I have this ROM of Final Fantasy VI. It was translated from the original. It was translated from the original Japanese. Then I give it to someone else. Someone goes, okay, cool. And they pass it on until they run into someone who goes, oh, I don't like that they use that word there. That's culturally insensitive. I'm going to change that word to something else. And then pass that on. Well, that's now been altered from its original. Hell, the translation from Japanese is altered from the original.
That's true.
Because shit gets lost in translation.
Oh,
Never seen that movie. I'm just going to stop you right there. I know where you're going.
Okay, that's fine. I was just going to say the thing in Oakland's called The Maid, Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment.
The Maid. Yes, excellent. Thank you. Bad name. Horrible name.
It's just an acronym. It's the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment.
Coke of Taco says, this shit's like the like to repair laws on farm equipment. Technically, you don't own a John Deere tractor. Wait, what?
Oh, dude, right to repair is fucking bullshit.
I've never heard of this.
So, John Deere is doing this. So back in the day, if you bought a lawnmower, right, and it broke, you could just go to the hardware store and buy the piece to fix your lawnmower and fix it. John Deere tractors don't come with regular ass pieces. They come with like computer chips and all this other bullshit like every other car that's out there. And so you have to basically send it back to them. And there's this whole group, like the right to repair guys, that are arguing, hey, I bought this fucking thing. I have the right to fix it. You need to make parts available.
Okay.
It's fun.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's like the whole Apple thing, how they were shutting down all the companies that would fix your Apple products because they want you to buy new Apple products. And there was that whole fight for whether or not it's legal for them to do that. The same argument is kind of held with people that refill printer ink cartridges. And there was a big deal with that, I think, last year, where companies were trying to sue and say that you can't refill the ink cartridge because it's still technically theirs. But that one was awesome because it actually went into litigation. And from what I remember from the suit, it was declared that once the cartridge was sold to the consumer, it became the consumer's property. And that, like, Canon and HP and whoever the fuck else didn't have any rights to that ink cartridge, and so it could be refilled. And that's just like a baby step on this huge argument against people being able to fix their own shit if they pay for it and so not actually owning things they buy.
When it comes to software, I see why people go, no, it's a license and not you don't actually own it, because that's just one of those cases where the government has been behind on digital technology for way longer than they should be. They should be far more up on the front of it. So I see why that still exists. I didn't know there was this shit about like right to repair or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like a whole big thing. It's actually something that pisses me off quite a lot, actually.
Well, I mean, if you love talking about things that get you pissed off, let's go ahead and move on to this next story right here. This is via GameDaily.biz. Now, for those of you who've watched the show and have been watching the show for a while, you might seem to remember way back in earlier this year, Gearbox's Randy Pitchford had a falling out with a childhood friend, and I believe it was his legal counsel, a guy by the name of Wade Callender. They were childhood friends. Things got nasty between them. It turned personal. Callender left / got fired and sued Gearbox. Gearbox in turn sued him. Now, what this lawsuit was about. This is the lawsuit that happened when it came, that whole infamous underage pornography USB drive stick left at the medieval times came about. That's what this original story came from.
Mm-hmm.
You remember talking about that?
Yep.
It got real petty between the two of these guys. It was
and
like
they were slamming each other on Twitter, and then the one guy's like, "It's all true." And people were like, "What's all true?" It's like that he took the money. But
it's like, motherfucker, you got to clear that shit up. So we talked about that extensively. One of the allegations of the suit was that Pitchford took $12 million of Borderlands bonuses from 2K that was meant to go to Gearbox, aka the employees, etc., and get filtered out amongst them. And Randy Pitchford denied it. Well, on June 12, 2019, Callender's attorney submitted a new 76-page filing that includes an amendment to the Borderlands 3 contract between Gearbox and 2K that references the $12 million plus another $3 million for co-founder and chief financial officer Stephen Ball, and that this contract amendment includes a clause titled Bonus for Satisfaction of Dedicated Executive Requirement. This clause states that if a developer is eligible for a recoupable $15 million bonus. So this is the bonus that Callender was referencing to, and he has filed documents that he claims proves that he said that Pitchford took this money from Gearbox. Initial thoughts.
Oh, I think they're going to be similar to the thoughts I had when we had this conversation 6 months ago. It's these guys really hate each other, so it's hard to get an accurate feel on what's going where. But
right, it's like, what's the truth and what's the spin?
Yeah, because there's not specific... Well, okay. This has some of the contract, but it's not 76 pages of the contract. It's like a filing that has an amendment that talks about some stuff.
It's that weasel word shit that Callender originally used when he was talking about underage pornography. What the fuck is underage? You put it in quotes. You say underage, you immediately think of child pornography. But in this case, it was like an 18-year-old webcam model, but in his mind, it's underage. And that's what he's saying. So it's that kind of bullshit that makes me doubt anything that Callender says. But we've also established Pitchford's a professional liar.
And an asshole. Definitely an asshole.
So, what the fuck does this mean? Well, in other words, upon satisfaction of the terms, publisher 2K would pay out $15 million to Gearbox, split in 3 payments of $5 million each. These are funds earned by Pitchford and Ball in their roles as Gearbox employees. 2K Games very much wanted Pitchford and Ball involvement in the project, and the clause ties to the $15 million to the 3 development milestones. Essentially, this $15 million was deliberately given because of Pitchford and Ball's roles at Gearbox. This is important to mention, as you'll see later. So the clause ties to $15 million to developmental milestones, their attentions toward development and success of Borderlands 3, and their personal engagement for 30 hours per week, aka these two must be working on the game at least 30 hours a week to get this bonus.
Yep.
Very clearly a $15 million bonus meant to make sure Pitchford and Ball are part of this team. So you can make the case that it is money for them.
Makes sense.
We'll get into that later. In Calendar's original complaint, he alleged misappropriation of funds. In his most recent amended petition, he and his attorney have provided both the original contract clause and an amendment for the bonus satisfaction of dedicated executive requirement clause. Blah, 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 blah. We don't fucking care. Here's the important part. The March 1st, 2007 amendment to the authority's 2K Games... Oh, right, let me start over again. Sorry. The March 1st, 2017 amendment authorizes 2K Games to divert Pitchford's $12 million in recoupable bonus to his personal company, Pitchford Entertainment Media Magic, a.k.a. Pitchford took that $12 million bonus and took it from being paid to Gearbox, put it into his own company, the Pitchford Entertainment Media and Magic. Here's what the problem is. The way the bonus was written, it was meant to go to Pitchford and Ball to begin with, not Gearbox. So, is Pitchford siphoning money from Gearbox?
That would be fair to assume, but he also kind of is Gearbox.
That's where the other sticky widget is. Pitchford owns 50% of Gearbox and 51% of operational control, meaning that not only does he own half of the company as Gearbox, but he gets to make all of the decisions. It's all his word final. In fact, some of these behind closed door documents...
Who do you want to bet finalized the language on the contract in the first place?
Randy Pitchford. Randy Pitchford has allegedly been stated as saying, I am Gearbox.
It seems that way.
So, when 2K Games says we are going to pay this bonus to these two people, but Randy Pitchford says he is Gearbox, that's where the weird legal conundrum falls. And much like everything else in this fucking lawsuit, don't trust either side, because they're both biased as fuck.
Also, did Ball get any money?
I have no idea. The fuck? I have no idea what he got.
The bonus was written so that if both of them worked the sufficient amount of time on the game, they would both get... It's not they're both individually getting $15 million. It's that there's a $15 million fund set aside for both of them, providing they complete the requirements in the contract.
And Ball
say they did, and then they hand all the money into Pitchford's private company. Did Ball get paid? I'm assuming he did, otherwise he would be suing them as well.
I believe Ball owns the other 50% of Gearbox, by the way.
Cool.
Just to throw that out there. I'm not 100% on that.
So did they put everything into Pitchford Company because it changes, I don't know, some fucking operational costs or tax brackets or some bullshit?
I don't fucking know. That could be
That's what I'm saying. It gets so weird and just in the weeds. And God, I was so happy, right? Because we just had finally a resolution to an annoying lawsuit that was ongoing and related to video games when the Star Control shit finally wrapped up, and I was like, thank God we don't have to talk about legal bullshit for a while.
Nope.
And sure enough, Randy fucking Pitchford has the show about cap in my life. God damn it.
Salty Frank says he thought Pitchford owned a 51% majority. From what this article says, and once again, the article is at GameDaily.biz, he owns 50% of the company, but 51% operational control, which essentially means when he says he is Gearbox, he means it.
He's the final decision. No one can challenge him.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of legal jargon and terms in here because it's a lawsuit. And once again, we are two jackasses who know nothing about the law commenting on things law. But if I'm reading this right, from what I read,
we do our best.
From what I read here in my own inelegant way, is that 2K paid a bonus to Pitchford and Raw directly.
Yep.
Or Ball, B-A-H-L. Ball. I'm just going to say Ball. 2K paid it to them directly. But since Pitchford is Gearbox, he has to keep that shit really clean and separate if it's him or if it's the company for legal reasons. Because this is why people get incorporated to begin with. This is why you create like LLCs and shit. So that way you personally can't get sued if your company fucks up, even though you are your own company. In fact, LLC means limited liability. I don't even get into that. But the question is, did he keep it clean enough between the two? And that is what we don't know. Now, a lot of games media actively hate Randy Pitchford for reasons both good and bad. There's some people who hate him for dumb reasons. There are good reasons to hate him. They have kind of ran with this saying, oh, look, this is evidence that Pitchford's fucking corrupt, blah, 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 blah. No CEO is worth as much as Randy Pitchford is, blah, 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 blah. This means nothing.
Dude, this shit doesn't even go to trial until next January. Ugh.
And I don't mean this means nothing as in there isn't something here to look into. What I mean is this tells us nothing.
Yeah.
We don't know.
The only thing, I think the most telling part of this entire fucking article, honestly, on my side, is that they talk about the fact that when Calendar brought up all his complaints in the first place, Gearbox said that he was lying so much that they were gonna like counter-sue him or file agreements against him, and this was what 8 months ago, and they've never done anything.
Yeah,
they've never started a countersuit against the guy, and that makes me think that he's got at least half of or a quarter of a leg to stand on.
No, I'm almost. I don't want to say almost positive, but I'm sure that Gearbox is suing Calendar as well, or Randy Pitchford could be suing Calendar. Not as Gearbox, but as Randy Pitchford. I don't fucking know anymore.
Or as Pitchford Entertainment, because who the fuck knows?
Because remember what we said at the beginning of the show. The person who has to rebrand themselves is losing the fucking argument. Randy Pitchford had rebranded Gearbox as, what the fuck was it? Where is it? Pitchford Entertainment Media and Magic. Why? Let's say everything is 100% on the up and up. Let's say that this is absolutely correct. The bonus was paid to him directly, and he gets to spend that bonus any way he wants to. It doesn't have to go through Gearbox. It was to him directly. He put it in his own company. Why would you put it into... why? There could be some like legitimate legal reason why he has to do this. It could be like a tax loophole, which I am fine if you take a tax loophole. They exist for you to take. That is why they are there. But this is so fucking confusing, and it has been so tainted by people who just actively hate Pitchford. Who he is an easy guy to hate, and I don't like a lot of the things he's done either. Who have like an axe to grind, and you can see their biases shown. It's just been tainted by all sides. Because I think Randy Pitchford is a liar. He has openly lied on camera multiple times. But I also think he legitimately enjoys games. I think that you could see his passion for shit and some stuff. But conversely, you have some people going, oh, Randy Pitchford's the fucking difference. Like, yeah, but you fucking hate him because he said some random throwaway comment earlier that attacked you personally, and now you have an axe to grind against him, so you don't report everything truthfully. Everything about Randy Pitchford is fucking tainted, including Pitchford himself. So when you see people saying, oh, this exonerates Pitchford, or no, this damns Pitchford for stealing from the company, the point is, we don't fucking know what this says. We have an accusation. It is up, and with some documents that apparently back it up, but it is up to a judge.
Dude, what's funny is that this
and the lawyers to hammer this out.
For us, this doesn't change anything.
No, we still don't fucking know.
There was accusations against Pitchford last time we talked about it. Guess what? There's still accusations. They've just changed them a little to try and get another angle because the other ones weren't sticking as hard as the guy wanted them to.
It's just, and that's the dance, right? That's the lawsuit dance.
That's how you got to do it.
Throw shit up against the wall to see what sticks. And I doubt any of this is ever going to go to trial. This shit's going to get settled off court.
What are you talking about, dude? This trial is set as soon as humanly possible. The beginning of January next year.
Conveniently after the Borderlands 3 launch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got to get those bonuses.
Right. And I will say this, too. I have a hard time believing that 2K Games, if they found out that Pitchford actually did steal from Gearbox, would just sit idly by and let that happen. Because that starts like opening them up to some shit potentially. So I think their stance of like, what was it that they said? I don't actually have it up here, unfortunately. But Gearbox issued a statement that said, hey, that's between them. We don't have any comment on this. Let's see. Captain Ice Cold says, man, I hate this kind of drama. It's kind of like when a celebrity does something stupid and it taints the movies they were in. I absolutely agree. That is what we have going on here. Regardless of what this lawsuit entails, I think we can all agree that Pitchford's personal behavior, he does more damage to himself than good. Salty Frank, and speaking of which, Salty Frank says, we're talking about a millionaire who goes to medieval times and keeps business and porn on one flash drive. A millionaire. So, yeah. I get emails from Newegg, free flash drives for like $10. So, yeah, that's exactly. He kept... What kind of fucking jackass keeps important company documents on a flash drive along with a chick squirting?
Randy Pitchford. Magic extraordinaire.
I think a lot of this, and I think that actually, I'm going to go off on a tangent, and I'm going to say allegedly right here. I think a lot of this speaks to his character. The man is very, there's an arrogance there. When you say things like, I am Gearbox, it reminds me of fucking Louis the 14th, when he would go, I am the state. Essentially call him the Sun King. So he thinks himself like the ruler of this little empire. And he acts in ways that he thinks will never catch up to him. What's the harm if I keep important Google company documents on a flash drive? It's important that anyone else or any other company does that, they are fucking fired immediately. Dude, like you could be the fucking vice president of all Xbox. I don't remember his name right. The name's say Andrew House, CEO of EA.
Sure. Okay.
Andrew House leaves a flash drive with important information of EA financials and hardcore pornography on it and gets leaked. Do you think Andrew House has a job? Yes, he is the CEO, but EA is a publicly traded company. He's gone within a week.
Yeah, dude, just save the porn to your phone or something.
There is this level of hubris around Randy Pitchford that is so extreme, even I, who have an ego the size of the state of fucking California, looks at and goes, dude, you need to fucking dial it back a little bit. So
it's like tall but not that wide? Is that...
wide but not deep. I think is the term you're looking for here.
Oh, yeah.
God damn. Just let us know what you think down below. I'm not a legal expert. If anyone is taking like a law class,
don't.
If anyone has any kind of legal background, let me know what you guys think of this shit. Once again, this is just two people who have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, spitballing from what they can make out from this legal mumbo jumbo that I can barely even read online, let alone comprehend. So let us down below as we move on to the next topic here. I'll let you get the last one. I'll take this one.
Speaking of nonsense, bonuses? There you go. I fucked it up. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, you already fucked it up. Thank you. That was deliberate. I don't believe you're that incompetent. This one's via IGN. We were talking about EA executives participating house. Well, it sounds like EA executives are giving up their 2019 performance bonuses this year. And that's the story. As detailed in a summary from EA Businesses on the U.S. Securities Exchange and Commission website, CEO Andrew Wilson, not Andrew House, Andrew Wilson, sorry. I think I said Andrew House. I think that might be the PlayStation guy.
You're also saying vice president, so nailed it.
Yeah, whatever. It's not like I'm supposed to know these people's names. CEO Andrew Wilson and his executive staff have elected not to receive the monetary bonuses they would typically be paid as part of EA's pay-for-performance compensation philosophy. Essentially, EA has it set where they make... I looked through this, by the way. You can find like this massive summary right here that breaks down all the financials here. If I'm reading it correctly, Andrew Wilson gets a salary of like $1.2 million a year, but his bonuses are in like the 18 to 20 millions. And it's based on how well the company's stocks are doing. This year, EA took a battering. Last year, EA took a battering. So this year, all the executives are giving up the performance bonuses. What do you think?
I think that's how companies work.
That's not how companies work. That's actually very rare to see.
I think that's how companies should work.
There we go.
This makes a shit ton of sense. And the opposite of this should never happen ever. Guess what? You guys performed poorly, so you don't get your performance bonuses. Just get the fuck out of here. What do you want?
A couple things here. One, the only other case I can think of this happening with a game company is when Nintendo had a bad stock one year.
Dude, yeah, but that was different because it wasn't just denying a bonus. It was like the CEO cut his salary in half, or like
Yeah.
the whole executive staff cut their salaries.
Yeah, they're like, we fucked up, we're sorry. But that's the only company I can think of that's done this in recent history as far as games is concerned.
Yeah, and even that was way more hardcore. They're just giving up their millions and millions and millions of dollars in bonuses. They're still all going home with their salary.
Yeah, which is high. Here's the thing. When you say performance bonus, people in their brain goes, okay, so it ranges from 100% to 0%, with 0% being $0. It's not how that works. 0% or negative growth can still, depending on how you write in your contract, a contract, mind you, that EA and Andrew Wilson agreed to when they hired him. So in other words, it's not Andrew Wilson just paying himself. Says, even if you have negative performance, you get this set of a bonus. Which it could be in the millions still. For negative growth. So when you say things like, this is how performance bonuses work, I have to say that's not really how performance bonuses work. Because you can get like a lowest rated performance bonus ever, but still walk away with $5 million if that is what your contract says.
Man, I should get good at contracts. Be CEO for some bullshits.
You can say, you can have written in your contract, and I'm going to keep using Andrew Wilson as the example. He could have said,
Since
okay,
we're talking about him,
you're going to pay me $1 million a year, and I'm going to have a performance-based bonus that starts at $5 million, regardless of what happens. And for every dollar of stock, every dollar the stock ends at, above what it started at the year, I get another $1 million. So if your stock ends up $20 million or 20 points higher, you get an extra $20 million. If your stock ends 20 points lower, you still get that $5 million out the gate.
it's just so weird to me.
Welcome to the world of big business. We've talked about this before, about how some people go, oh, no CEO is worth that much, to which I go, well, EA thought he was. And if I'm a CEO who has a track record, now I'm not using Andrew Wilson's for his example, because I don't know what his background is, but let's say I'm a CEO. Let's say I'm a professional CEO. I've run 15 different companies. EA comes up to me and goes, you have a track record of taking businesses and making them twice as profitable within 5 years. We think that is worth X amount of money. Let's say $50 million a year. And then people go, oh, no one's worth $50 million a year. Well, if my record shows that I can take a company that's making $800 billion and under 5 years make them $1 trillion, that means that for the $30 million they paid me in 1 year, I made them $200 billion? You're fucking right, I'm worth $30 million. Do you see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. It's just we're talking about numbers that are so mind-bogglingly fucking huge to me that I just can't. It's difficult for me to comprehend.
Yeah, and I think I've also gone off on a tangent from the original conversation. I don't know where I'm going with this.
It's just ridiculous. Basically, okay, guess what? EA gave up their performance bonuses. I think it makes sense because their performance was shit, and maybe they should focus more on, as Captain says, maybe if they focus more on making great games instead of games as a service, they wouldn't be in this position in the first fucking place. I paraphrased. Sorry.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Games. The reason why everyone's going as games. So we all bitch about games as a service.
So we do bitch about games as a service, but the way that EA has approached that particular conundrum has been really aggressive as far as trying to get every fucking nickel and dime from you.
Yes.
Every last one. And remember that the whole Battlefront 2 loot box controversy and the reason loot boxes started going into all this litigation bullshit in the first place is because of EA.
Right.
I
absolutely agree. It's the frog in the pot analogy, right?
They got a little bite of the carrot and went really, really hard.
It's the frog in the pot analogy. If you want to boil a frog, you have to slowly heat it up. And what happened is that EA, by the way, we're the frogs in this analogy. It's not a good analogy for us. EA saw all these developers slowly, incrementally increase the temperature and temperature and temperature. We kind of sat back and went, yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever. This is fine. And then fucking EA comes in and goes, no, man, let's crank this son of a bitch up, and cranks on blast. And then we went, what the fuck? Why is it hot in here?
Maybe the execs could start getting salary via surprise mechanics.
Salty Frank, where we were talking about that earlier, that specifically the surprise mechanic thing.
Oh my God, no. At the end of every fiscal year, all the EA execs get on their email 5 executive level EA loot boxes that determine their salary bonuses.
What you do is you base the percentages off the salaries of their actual employees. So if you have like 10% of your staff makes $20,000 a year, then 10% of the loot boxes only have $20,000 in it. You have a 0.00001 chance of getting an $18 million bonus.
And it's only fair, guys. It's a surprise mechanic. It's meant to be fun.
While we're talking about fairness, let's move on to this last topic here, David. Let's go ahead and lead us off.
Oh, so this is a weird... Okay, Twitter is in a weird place for us to get news. But about video games, it is weird for us to bring up Bernie Sanders. He recently had a tweet last week that has been in and out of or around the games media, because anytime a politician mentions video games, we're used to them saying something negative.
It also helps that the games media tends to be horribly left-leaning, and they all love Bernie Sanders. Well, almost all love Bernie Sanders. There's some who really hate him.
The tweet...
Going on.
If you let me fucking finish for once, that he put up is the video game industry made $43 billion in revenue last year. The workers responsible for that profit deserve to collectively bargain as part of a union. I'm glad to see unions like IATSE and the broader game workers movement organizing such workers, and linked the Time article about video game creators being burnt out and the potential need for game unions.
I'm going to say the most positive thing I've ever said about Bernie Sanders. In this case, he is half right. I think that's the most positive I'll ever say about him. I absolutely think that collective bargaining is an extremely powerful tool, and workers should always have access to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've talked about this all the way back to the voice actor strike like a year or two ago, about how if you get enough people together and go, we demand this increase in pay, that can force a company to go, well, shit, we can't replace these people. And this isn't like voice acting. Not to disparage voice actors, but we've had that conversation before in the past, too, especially when it related to like GTA. These are people who actually have talent and need to go to school for and need to learn how to do this.
That fucking low burn on every voice actor in the history of time. I'm going to text Troy Baker because somehow I have his phone number in this story.
Hey, I'm a big fan of... I'm a big supporter of performance matters. I think that you need to have talent. But we talked about this in the past. You can go look at past shows where essentially, for example, Rockstar just hired a bunch of people off the street to voice characters in GTA 5.
There are more people willing to do the work.
Yeah. When it comes to game development, that shit requires a lot of technical know-how and skills. It's not what you would consider unskilled labor.
Fair.
So there is power in a bunch of them getting together and saying, hey, we demand this much because we are worth this much. And it's more power than the voice actors union ever had. Where Bernie Sanders is deadly wrong in is that unionization being the answer to that. Because unions, once again, this is my opinion, but it's based on a lot of things backing it up, tend to be not only horribly corrupt, because you're paying people to essentially do... You're paying dues for an organization that doesn't reward talent. It rewards how long you've worked there. Which isn't talent at all. It's just how long you've worked there, which is not right. And you're dealing with an industry that is global. Now, a union makes sense at local levels. That's why you have local union chapters. But when you have a company like Ubisoft that has studios in America, France, Canada, etc.,
laws get tricky.
One union don't work. And for this to work, you need one union. Do you see the conundrum here?
That is a difficult part, but the way it's set up now isn't the solution either. Workers need to be able to organize and need to be able to actually fight for proper representation for things they need to worry about.
I agree. But a union is the way to do it.
They should have a bargaining chip. And maybe union is the wrong word. Maybe there's some other fucking worker collective. I don't know.
I'm fine with that. But like I said, collective bargaining.
You have like a specific problem against the word union, even though unions are kind of the right idea in their original form.
Yes, but they don't serve a purpose anymore.
A lot of unions with that.
Not that purpose anyways.
I mean, there's plenty of unions that are literally just there so that workers have a seat at the table when high-level decisions are being made.
First of all, hey, not Kyle Reach. Hey, Nolan Richardson. Good to have you both in chat. Second of all, it is all the baggage that goes along. I guess the union isn't the part of that problem. It's all the baggage that goes along with the union that I have a problem with. Because I've had experience with them in the past. I have never seen a union that ever did good by the individual. By definition, they can't. So if you're part of a union, you can work your ass off and go, hey, I've done all this extra work.
Now,
what
see,
about a raise?
That is absolutely true in that unions don't help support meritocracies.
No, not at all.
They don't. Because the hardest worker is going to make just as much as the laziest fucking guy there.
Which means, why should I do hard work?
Which is why governments are run so fucking poorly.
Yep.
And as someone who knows several state workers, I'm well aware of some of the damaging parts of unions. However, they also get a fixed yearly raise. They have benefits. They have a lot of perks that you should have as an employee for a company that makes a fuck off ton of money. And I get that they can't necessarily just start handing that all to employees because shareholders, whatever the fuck else, shit, I don't know. But they should at least have an argument. There should be someone that has a foot in the door to argue on their behalf.
I agree. That's where the collective bargaining comes into play. I want the pros of a union without all the cons of the union. And just from my experience of what I've seen, the cons of a union significantly outweigh the pros of a union and just don't work on a global scale.
Depending on where it is.
Yes.
And that's the other thing. It depends completely on the industry.
I 100% agree. Yeah. And I don't think a union can actually thrive in the video game industry. And some unions, like I said, are fucked up.
There are some in smaller scales. International companies, I feel like it's too difficult.
Right. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean you can't do it, but I know what you're coming from. And some unions are fucked up. For example, did you know that some unions you can't actually strike? It's like, but what do you mean I can't strike? Well, we have a contract. It's illegal to strike. What the fuck do you mean it's illegal to strike? You're a union. The union sold them out.
Yeah.
There are places where union goes, okay, we're going to go on strike, and you're going to get fined X number of days, X number of dollars per day. Well, I don't want to go on strike. Why am I going to get fined? Well, you're part of the union. Well, I had to be part of the union to work. It was in the requirements. You forced me to join up to your union to actually work here, or they wouldn't hire me. So now you're saying you're going to go on strike, which I don't want to do, and I'm going to have to pay a fine because you're going on strike, which I don't want to do? Yeah. Fuck that. That's my problem with unions, is the collective mindset behind them, is that they restrict what the individual can do and achieve. Ultimately, because I'm not saying unions are bad for company. Fuck the company. Fuck that. Unions have a lot of bads for the individual. And what I would like to see is that somehow they take the good parts of the unions, like the collective bargaining aspect of it. Because collective bargaining is really fucking powerful.
I feel like your answer is like a company electorate where workers fucking pick a dude to represent these workers and then they go to the board.
See, I'm fine with that. That's what, at its base sense, that is what a union is, right? But
it's
union has grown
not working
from
like that. Yeah.
Unions have grown from it, where they go, oh, we need to collect dues and fees, and people can't
back in the
advance
day,
unless
they're
everyone
great.
advances.
Unions are like the reason the middle class exists.
It's just, yeah, Salty Frank, unions corrupt so easily, and that I just have such. It's why I distrust government. It's why I distrust unions. It's why I distrust corporation. I fear authority, because authority wants to fuck you continuously.
He doesn't like a large number of people listening to one person.
No, unless that person's me, then by all means, please.
And that is the absolute worst advice anyone could ever take. Don't listen to this guy for anything. He's the worst.
Anyways, I have pontificated about this long enough. I just wanted to mention that Bernie Sanders is tweeting about this, which means the game union shit is actually starting to pick up steam. Where it's going to lead,
it's being noticed.
Yeah. I don't think that there's going to be a way in hell that game workers can actually unionize, even if they want to or not, for all the reasons we briefly talked on about earlier.
I mean, there have been some examples, and there are places where it's happening, or where companies are working more as a collective than as a traditional group of people.
That's one thing. But what we're talking about here is like a nationwide union of some kind, like SAG-AFTRA, Salty Frank, for example. And
yeah, but that's just not
going to happen.
It wouldn't be able to work on that scale because, again, a lot of game companies are international, and as soon as you leave one country and go to another, then all the laws change, and you would have to get so ridiculously specific, and the union would become so tarnished trying to make decisions on a global scale that you wouldn't actually see any benefits because they'd have to fight through so much legality.
Well, think about the disunity it causes too, because
it would never actually help you.
You have people that would work on in Canada, France, Japan, Mexico, UK, all on the same game, and all of them would fall under different union regulation.
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyways, let us know what you guys think about this whole thing down below. Do you think game workers should unionize or not?
Anyway, shout out to Bernie Sanders for not wanting to bring up some legalization of video some way or another. But the children.
It's just I want people to realize they have more power than they think they do, and they don't need a union to go to bat for them, because the union is
I want people to have more power than they do currently.
It's the union is just going to reach in your pocket and take more money and reward those who kiss ass of the union. That's just what I see. But what the fuck do I know? David?
Yes.
Let's talk about things to watch out for this week. And the biggest thing to watch out for this week is Summer Games Done Quick. That is currently going on right now on Twitch. David, why don't you explain what a GDQ is?
Okay, so Games Done Quick is one of the coolest fucking things on the internet, in my opinion. And it is a, 3-day, week-long, however many long. It depends on which stream it is, but it goes for a few days at least. And it's got people playing at a high level, beating games very, very quickly, speedrunning. Some of them are 100% completions. Some of them are glitch-free runs. Some of them are glitch the hell out of it runs. But the whole point of it is to get people to stay on, watch, and donate. And they're always going to a good cause. This episode, whatever you want to call it, of Summer Games Click is benefiting Doctors Without Borders. And I think they're beating Metroid right now.
Right at this second, they could be. I don't actually. That's fine. Metroid's almost always on there in some way, shape, or form, and it is Doctors Without Borders right now. I think it's gone to the American Cross once or twice, but I know that Doctors Without Borders is like their big one. That's the one they tend to raise most money for.
Yep. But Games Done Quick, if you've never watched it, is pretty damn fascinating. I always tend to show up for the more difficult games because watching someone just destroy Dark Souls in 20 minutes is amazing.
Yeah, some of this shit is really fascinating to watch, and it's like if I throw this chair up in this one corner and jump on this exact same pixel, there's a 2% chance I might fall through the game itself and skip 10 seconds of something.
Dude, Resident Evil 7 has some cool shit where you can literally avoid cutscenes and jump scare moments if your camera is pointed in a certain direction when you walk into the hallway. It won't trigger the event because the event takes 11 seconds and that destroys speed runs. So they're like, well, if I look at this specific corner of the hallway as I'm walking, the character actually won't pop out because it won't trigger the right line of code that makes it so he pops out, so I can just keep going.
Right. It's
just the shit these guys figure out about games is amazing.
If you watch some of the older Final Fantasy ones or the older Dragon Quest ones, that shit's scary too, because they're like, okay, if you take 3 steps here, the ROM chip randomizer is going to say this, but only if we bought specifically $210 worth of gold of equipment at this one store 3 screens ago. It gets really fucking nebulous as far as some of these tactics go. But you can definitely watch that. I recommend taking a look at it. It's at twitch.tv/games.quick. And if you want to donate, feel free to donate. But David, this thing's lasting an entire fucking week. I can't watch this for a week straight. But I can have it run in the background where I play something else. If I were to be playing something else, what would it be?
Oh man, I was trying to find the schedule. All right, let's talk about new release, brand new games that have never been released before on the PC. As Heavy Rain comes to the Epic Store.
Heavy Rain, that Quantic Dream game, their triptych of games, is coming to the Epic Store.
PS4 exclusive for sure, however long that managed to last. This is going to be the first of the several Quantic Dream games coming to the Epic Store specifically. But guess what? You can still play it on PC. Go fuck yourself if you're mad about it being on Epic. This is the one that has the origami killer.
The
origami killer. It's another David Cage jaunt where you make decisions. It's a kind of just story-driven game with not a lot of action. It's basically QTE based, but your decisions have consequences, determine who lives and who dies.
I legitimately like Heavy Rain, by the way. I think it's an amazing game.
Heavy Rain is definitely one of the better QD games.
Yes.
I absolutely fucking adore the first 2/3 of Indigo Prophecy. And then it just falls off the fucking rails. And
I absolutely agree.
And then it just turns into the Matrix for no goddamn reason. And that game, man, it's so good. And then it's like fast forward 2 months and you literally turn into Neo. And that game
goes places.
That game, I think, is one of my most disappointing video games I've ever played in my life.
All right.
Like I'm actually really sad we talked about Quantic Dream right now. Anyway, also coming out this week, something I'm pretty excited for. Samurai Showdown hits PS4 and Xbox One. This is a reboot of the franchise. Story-wise, it takes place between the original game from '93 and Samurai Showdown 5. Samurai Showdown, if you're not aware, is a 2D fighting game that has some pretty sweet mechanics. It's a lot slower paced than like King of Fighters or Tekken or Street Fighter, because basically everyone has a sword, and it's not meant to, oh, okay, I'm going to hit him 37,000 times, and then eventually we'll get to supers, and then maybe they'll die. No, you get hit with a sword, and it fucking hurts, and you lose most of your life. It is a much slower, reactionary, pressure, spacing style fighting game, and I think the Samurai Showdown games are super cool. And I'm kind of bummed that it's not coming out for PC for, I think, another 6 months. And even worse, it won't have crossplay. So if you have friends that play on console, you might just need to get it on console and not try and hold out.
I'm just surprised they brought this franchise back. I thought this was a dead franchise.
I did too, but I'm pretty psyched. Also, I think this game looks amazing.
It does look good. I did see a trailer for it. It looks real pretty.
Yep. Bloodstained Ritual Night hits Switch this week. Came out last week for every other thing.
An amazing game. God damn, I love this game.
Everyone I know that's playing it absolutely adores it. So
watch out. It has I don't know if they've patched it yet, but it has a nasty progression bug right now.
Oh, does it?
Like as in what happens is that certain key items to progress won't spawn, like their chest will be opened. And you could just never get them, and your save is fucked.
Oof, that's rough.
I think they might have fixed it by now, but it still requires you starting over again if you have it.
Damn. Also coming out this week for PS4, Judgment, which is an action-adventure game published by Sega, and it is a spin-off of the Yakuza series. So expect the same kind of like zaniness, combat system, and overall, I don't know, Yakuza-y-ness of it, but with a different protagonist and a different storyline. From what I've seen, this game looks, a lot like a Yakuza game, and those games are pretty fun. We the Revolution hits PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. This is an interesting game because you are like a judge. Then you're I don't know, dude. Watch the trailer for this game.
I know it's set during the French Revolution.
Yeah, it's not something that I think I've ever played before. I don't think it's my exact kind of game. It's like a strategy game, but it's historical, set during the French Revolution, and you like talk to people and make decisions and try and like get weirdly political and
can I go Robespierre on someone's ass?
It's entirely possible.
Do you know who Robespierre is?
No.
Okay. All right. Hey, just be honest. That's all I ask.
Yeah, dude, fuck it. I don't care. There's an expansion of World of Warcraft coming out this week called Rise of Ashara.
It is important to note that it's not an expansion. It's just a big patch update, but it is a whole bunch of new content dropping.
Okay. It's more WoW. If you want it, you already know about it. If you don't, I ain't here to sell it to you.
Fair enough.
The Sinking City hits PS4, Xbox One, and PC this week. This is a Lovecraftian adventure game set in the 1920s on the east coast of the U.S. So you're playing as like a PI trying to figure out what's going on.
Right. This comes out Tuesday. I will be streaming it tomorrow. PR has given me a code, so just keep in mind that the code was provided for free. And they've given me the okay to stream this a couple days early, and I'm really, really looking forward to get my hands on this because I do love me a good old Cthulhu detective game.
That is remarkably up your alley. Super Mario Maker 2 hits Switch this week. It's the sequel to Super Mario Maker. This game's going to be dope. I am 100% on board for this. I don't have time to make levels or do any of that stuff, but I am 100% on board to play all the crazy shit that these like game creating savants like just put together. I especially like the levels where you don't do anything, you just stand there and Mario wins for you. That's my favorite.
I will not play this. I will not attempt to even try to make a level at this, but I'm glad this game exists because one, I know it brings joy to a lot of people, and two, I love watching the shit people make on YouTube with this.
Hell yeah, dude. It's like the Little Big Planet Dreams effect.
Yeah.
People that are given access to any kind of game creator or editor Make the coolest shit. And this shouldn't be an exception. And lastly on this list, we have F1 2019 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. This is the official Formula One racing video game. It's got all the official teams, drivers, and circuits from the season. This also has Formula 2, so you can complete in the season. The F1 games have, I think for the last few years, been hands down the best sim racing games you can play. Just full stop. They're so fucking good. It's ridiculous. You are limited to just playing F1 cars, but if you want a bona fide driving experience and you're interested in like sim handling, then play the F1 games.
Fair enough.
And Little Big Planet didn't necessarily fizzle out. The team that's behind it is the ones making Dreams.
Yeah, Media Makul has been like on the Dreams product for
hard at work
7
for
years.
On Dreams.
They've been on for a long time. It was supposed to be a PlayStation 3 title, if I recall.
Yep, but if you look at some of the stuff that the beta creators are already making, it's insane. Someone remade the entire intro to Metal Gear Solid in it.
Someone did it with Dead Space too. I really want to see what comes around from that game.
Yeah, that game should be rad. But so they're focusing more on the game creation side than building a platformer and letting you screw with it. This is it can make crazy shit.
Right.
Yep.
David, that brings us to the new releases, which means we are at the end of the show.
Aw.
Thank you all for showing up. This has been GamePoints 180, despite what that title up there says, because I'm a moron and didn't change it. And thank you all for showing up, which I think I just said as well. Oh, the outro and the intro are clearly my strong points. If you're watching us live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints or YouTube.com/GamePointsPC and you like what you see here and you want to support the show, feel free to do those things that streamers love. You know, likes, follow, subscribes, bits, etc. If you're sitting on Amazon or Twitch Prime account and you haven't used it, I'd appreciate it here. But if you don't use it here, please use it somewhere. You can follow the show at GamePoints PC on the Twitters. You can follow myself there as well as CapitalistPig21. And you can follow David there at _Satori. We will be back I will be back tomorrow afternoon with The Sinking City. I'm looking forward to getting into that, as well as regular streams throughout the week. So the best way to know when I go live is, of course, to follow and turn the notifications on. David, it has been a pleasure to have you as always. And until next week, you and yours have a good one. We're out of here.